So what you put together so far seems to be working well.
Yeah, no, I think that the team is obviously got off to a great start in Vancouver against one of our rivals, and you know, it's a long season, so it's really just one game, but it's always nice to get that first win, given the moves we made in the off season, and we have a tough challenge ahead of us in Columbus, and we're really just taking it, as you've heard from all the other players, we're just taking it one game at a time.
The signings announced today for the TFC2, Tim, you've got 8. How will you do the rest of the roster? Will there be more signings? Will you rely on the first team to make up the numbers? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, the roster for the TFC2 team will be composed primarily of 3 groups of players. There'll be the players signed directly to USL contracts, which we're excited about talking about today. There's 8 players that were signed, a number of our draft picks, as well as 3 of our academy members. So they'll sort of make up the heart of the roster, and then each week it'll sort of fluctuate between 2 other groups. The first team members who maybe did not get games with the first team, who will be loaned down on a regular basis, and who those players are will change from week to week. And then the second group will be the academy players coming up. They won't be signing contracts, but under the rules of the league, the academy players, amateurs, are allowed to play in this league on a limited basis. And then we also have other limitations in terms of we're going to field a certain number of Canadian players each match. So we're excited about TFC2, and today is a big day because it's the first group of players ever to play for this new professional team.
You had talked before about the pillars of development. How do you ensure now that there's symmetry between Toronto FC2 and the development leading up to the first team?
You know, we have regular communication across our club. So we have regular meetings to talk about player movement between our senior academy team, which plays in League One Ontario, which has provided a fantastic foundation for a number of our players. You know, Mo Babouli led the league in scoring, and the team did a fantastic job in that league this year. And some of the players, you know, did very well. So we're pulling them up to the first team, and so or TFC2, and then from there we will be able to take a look at them on a weekly basis and see if you know, any of their performances deserve a contract with the first team. So it's really just communicating with Jay, with Greg, with Corey Ray, who did a tremendous job in signing the players to TFC2. So it's really just a team effort. As we grow as an organization, it's making sure that we're on the same page, and we are right now.
Is there a delicate balance between giving players opportunities but also not hindering their development?
You know, I think that the primary goal of TFC2 is to provide meaningful games in a professional environment. The secondary goal would be to keep our players fit in the first team, get them games, but there's a constant balance between the short-term needs and the long-term needs. You know, every time you put in a veteran player who maybe is just need games to the first team, it comes at a cost of maybe a player's development. So you have to be weighing that on a daily basis and figure out what is the appropriate balance.
Jason has a lot of experience, obviously. Why did you choose him to lead these youngsters? What about him makes him the man for the job, do you think, Tim?
First and foremost, Jason has tremendous character. You know, part of our shift at this club has been to surround it and to fill it with good people. So Jason, first and foremost, is a good person who immediately instills trust in the players and from the community, because he is local, he's Canadian, he's played at all levels, and so that touches upon the last thing, which is his expertise. He is a sort of a thirst for learning about the game, for understanding what we're doing at the first team and making sure it's consistent. He's now have coached with the first team and with the academy, so it's important not only our player pathway is sort of complete, but even our coaching pathway and providing opportunities for young coaches to continue to grow. So we think Jason is a perfect person for the job.
Tim, how does the evaluation process work as far as identifying that potential and turning it into a professional soccer player? How does that work? Who has the final call when it comes to perhaps bringing one of these young players up to the first team squad? How does that work?
You know, the decision is made sort of by council. We have sort of a technical committee group here that we meet and we talk about players. We have a scouting department that players are presented. So we're following the USL and the NSL in order to have sort of a scouting report on those players if we wanted to bring them in. when you're talking about the academy, you need to have conversations with all your coaches on a regular basis. And so we have sort of a technical committee or coaches meetings where we evaluate our players and talk about who might need some games up with TFC2 based on their performances during the week or on the weekend with the academy team. So it's really just a matter of speaking to the people that are in it every day within our club and giving players a shot. You don't really know how they're going to perform until you put them in that environment, and sometimes players can surprise people, and I think we've seen that over the years with some of our youngsters. So it's really just making sure the communication is there.
So it wouldn't necessarily just be Greg's decision on whether he thinks a particular young player might fit into his first team setup?
No, I think obviously Greg's opinion will carry significant weight in whether or not a player would be called up to TFC2. But again, I don't think the way that we're operating, it's sort of a one-man show in really any of our areas. We're very collaborative, and we sometimes we disagree, but we find a way to come to an agreement, and I think that that's important.
Tim, in recent days, I'm sure you're aware there have been a lot of headlines about the Maple Leafs disciplining a player who was late for a meeting and had some off-field issues. I don't recall any such incidents being discussed publicly with your team, but I wonder what your thoughts were when you read that. Have you at times had to, Toronto FC had to speak to some of the young players on your squad to remind them about their focus?
I don't want to comment specifically about the Leafs situation. I don't know all the details, but what I do know is that within our club and our setup, we are part of our role is mentoring young men and turning. We start at a U10 level, and so we have roughly 150 to 200 children and young men coming through the doors every day. So part of our role is to mentor them and to teach them what it means to be a professional and how to carry yourself both on the field and off the field in order to be successful. We're just one piece of the pie, right? Obviously they spend a lot of their time outside of TFC, but when they're here, we're trying to create a culture and a sort of a professional environment that they can continue to grow as people as well.
A lot of Canadian soccer fans, not necessarily Toronto FC fans, want to see Canadian professionals. The first team is what it is and has been put together in different compartments. But as far as TFC2 is concerned, are you talking exclusively about Canadian talent? What are the paying public, for example, going to see on a week-to-week basis up at Vaughan?
Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think of it like that. How I think of it is TFC's the primary goal is player development, and which means that a majority of the players are going to be coming from our academy, which means they're going to be local products from Toronto and Ontario. So in that sense, yeah, it is always going to have a very strong Canadian flavor, and one of our stated goals is really to help Canada soccer grow. So yes, you could say that's one of the things, but it's not the primary reason why we would field a player.
We can take one more for Tim, guys.
Just so I'm right, have it right, Tim, will there be any more USL contracts for TFC2, or is this it, do you think?
There could be more. There's some roster slots open. Right now it's sort of seeing what we have. We like what we have. Jay likes what we have, and sometimes it's a matter of how many we're going to pull up from the academy and how many we're going to pull down from the first team. So there's still some availability in terms of the roster slots. So we like to see how they play in the first couple weeks, and I'll talk to Jay and Greg and figure out what their needs are, and then we'll fill in the holes from there.